How is it this hot in here? Oh great, how long has this thing been on for? Yeah, that would explain the heat. So this video is completely pointless. I already have so many Pentium 4 systems that are just like complete or mostly complete. At this point, it's ridiculous. I probably have like a dozen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I already have so many Pentium 4 systems that building another one makes absolutely no sense. But I also have a lot of Pentium 4 parts that I've never gotten to use and I've never put in a system before, so it's like, I don't know. I already have all these parts, so why not make the problem worse? I've also never built an LGA 775 Pentium 4 system before, so at least I can cross that off the list. Granted, I have, again, tons of complete like OEM systems that is LGA 775, and I've built other LGA 775 systems before, but that was all with like Core 2 Duos, Core 2 Quads. As for Pentium 4 stuff, it's all just been OEM stuff. I've never actually built a 775 Pentium 4 system before this point. Did I necessarily need to cross this off my list of things to do? No, but I want to, and hey, I think it'll be fun. I'm kind of going for like an early mid-2005 time frame, since that's just when the majority of the parts that I want to use are from. So that's kind of the angle we're going with here, but I'm not going to stick to it super tightly. I'm just building whatever the heck I want. So the whole genesis of this project was really the fact that I was just looking at this case that I've had for like years at this point, just sitting in my garage, and I never really had an idea of what I wanted to do with it. And I was like, what can I put in this thing? I was like, oh, Pentium 4, that would make sense. I'm already a little short on space, but considering that this is just an empty case, actually putting parts into it is actually like beneficial because, you know, at least it's taking up space for kind of a reason. Now this case, I have some thoughts on it. It definitely fits the 2005 theming pretty well. We got these really goofy gauges on the front. It looks kind of cool, and it's pretty dirty. I need to clean it up. I guess this would have been appealing. It doesn't look the worst. This is just a door that opens up, and this door is probably my biggest gripe about the whole system, as I'll talk about. Inside, I think it actually looks pretty nice, so might actually take off this door more than just for aesthetic reasons. But really quick, this door, I want to say these parts even light up. Could be wrong on that. It's been a long time since I've tried messing with anything on this case. Yeah, so we have 3 gauges of dubious usefulness. So we have a VU meter. Seems nice on the surface. I'm pretty sure this just taps into the front panel audio, because the front panel audio, all the front panel stuff's like right here. It's got USB, the audio, and Firewire, which that's kind of cool. And it does have a little bit of a volume wheel for I guess for the headphone jack. I'm pretty sure this just taps into that. So like this is only gonna work if you're using headphones, which that kind of sucks. That's like, I feel like a good chunk of people weren't using headphones back then. They were still using like desktop speakers and whatnot. So that kind of sucks. The second one we have is a temperature gauge, which that seems kind of cool. This one's probably is the coolest. Actually does have a little thermal sensor that you could stick somewhere. I want to say it's like flat enough that you could maybe slide it under a heat sink. I don't feel comfortable necessarily doing that because that's going to mess up your thermal contact and whatnot, and especially for a Pentium 4. We need the best thermal contact we can get, so I don't see myself using that. I guess you could maybe like tape this down to your hard drive or something, get your hard drive temps or something like that. But yeah, I don't know what you'd really need that for. It's kind of cool. And then the last one is fan speed, because this actually does have a fan controller. You can adjust the speed through one of these little wheels. Literally, it controls the fans off of Molex, or fan, I should say, because I'm pretty sure you can only hook up one fan unless you start like splitting them out, because the fans that came with this computer are Molex only, so yay. So this whole front panel thing feels really like half implemented, not super well thought out. You know those like, you've probably seen like the LGR Oddware videos of like the VU meter and like other stuff that looks like this. This feels exactly like one of those. They just stuck it into the case itself and called it a day, which I guess that's fine. But this case is not fine. I know this is going to be a really long section on just the case, but I need to talk about this. This front panel might genuinely be one of the stupidest design decisions and oversights that I've ever seen for a case. I know cases back in the day had pretty bad airflow, but nothing quite as bad as this. You see, that's your front intake fan. You know what happens when you close the door? Huh. I don't think any air could get in there. That's a little funny. That's a little funny. Oh, there's not even a cutout in the front door. Actual engineers looked at this and said, yeah, that's fine. It doesn't need to intake air at all. There's some like fake hole things here that you think air might get through, but I'm pretty sure these are just aesthetic. They don't go anywhere because there's no holes here. This just suffocates the front fan, and the only air you're gonna be getting in is through this little gap in the bottom. But God forbid you put this thing on carpet, because that thing's just immediately getting suffocated. So best case scenario, you have like 1/4 of an inch of clearance with the feet sitting on top of a desk, pulling in a little bit of air down at the bottom. That's the best case scenario, unless you just leave the door open all the time. Why? That's stupid. I mean, yeah, you do still have the intake through the side panel, but this is so far to the back of the case that I don't think it's gonna help it that much. It would be a lot more helpful if it was like down here, because then at least some of the airflow could kind of come in here and sort of help like the CPU cooler and the GPU, help maybe the hard drives a little bit. This is just such a stupid, bad, baffling design that I don't understand why you designed this. But you know what? It's okay. It's like mid-2000s. We'll cut them a little bit of slack, except we're not. Do you see what that says? Do you see what this says? 9/25/2010. They manufactured this in 2010. Now, I don't know if Apevia designed this case in like 2005, maybe, I hope 2006 at the latest. Maybe they designed it, and maybe for some unknown reason, this thing was popular enough to warrant still making for like 4 or 5 years, and that's how one ended up being made in 2010. I find that a little bit unbelievable, which means that someone may have actually designed this case in like 2009 or something like that. With this, that's just ignoring the bad design aesthetics. Like, this doesn't really look that good in my opinion. It's got that 2000s quirkiness, but even by 2010, I don't think many PC gamers would really want to be caught with this. I mean, maybe some, but this just looks cheap and cheesy, and everyone was starting to move towards, other stuff by 2010. But yeah, whoever had this case was definitely using it in 2010, because I got it with an AMD 890FX motherboard in it. So clearly somebody was using it around 2010. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to see if I could just take this door off, because I hate it. It angers me. I want to see if I could just maybe pop the hinges out or something. The evil has been vanquished. It was a little tricky getting all the wires off, but not too big of a deal. The hinges popped out pretty easily. The evil has been vanquished. The city is saved. And wow, Talk about a visual improvement. Now that's a nice looking case. Sure, we got a little bit of a funky hole and some cutouts here, but I think it looks still pretty good. We do lose our little controls here since that's soldered in on the thing, but you know, that doesn't really bother me that much. Also really cuts down on the rat's nest of wires that was previously in here, so I'm calling this whole thing a win-win. This thing can actually breathe now. Though plastic quality could be better. It's a little more flexible than I'd like. Oh, oops. Just forgot to start my voice recording. You've got to be kidding me! The second I turn the camera on, the frickin' power goes out. You've got to be kidding me. I swear I'm not making this up. Hold. Are we back? You've got to be kidding me, dude. Great. I really hope this stupid power isn't going to be flickering in and out. I hate the heat. Oh, and great, the AC is coming back. I've probably turned that off before that damages it. Yeah, that's another great thing about the heat. If the power flickers on and out, you gotta go turn your AC off so it doesn't damage it by, kicking on and off and, destroying the compressor. Maybe this is a bad idea. Maybe I shouldn't be building something that runs super hot. Yeah, but this is the main motherboard that I want to use. It's an Asus P5 GD2. I tried looking it up a little bit. I didn't get a ton of information about it. It seems like a socket 775 board. This might actually be from about late 2004, so this might actually be a pretty early 775 board. It's probably more realistically from around 2005 though. It's got some interesting stuff. We got floppy, we got 8 SATA ports. This thing is pretty interesting. It's kind of useful, honestly. Need a CMOS battery. No big deal, I got a bunch of those. But yeah, we got floppy, we got 3 IDE, is that correct? Oh wait, no, we got floppy, this, and this says it's RAID. SEC RAID 1. I never even looked at that till now. And then we have these SATA ports here. These red ones are labeled master, and the black ones are labeled slave. So maybe these are hard-coded to be an IDE mode. I don't know. I've never actually turned this thing on. I really hope it works. It's going to be pretty embarrassing if it doesn't work. But yeah, I had no clue at all that said IDE RAID. It was RAID. And then this down here, SATA RAID. What? I guess that makes sense for the silicon image chip down here. I feel kind of bad now. I wasn't planning on doing RAID at all. Maybe I'll have to mess around with that at some point on here in the future, but yeah, I don't know why I never even thought like, oh yeah, this probably supports RAID and stuff. Now it makes sense. I wonder if you can use these independently of the RAID function. Might be something to look into. 3 PCIe X1, X16, and 3 PCI slots. That's not too out of the ordinary. We got kind of a small VRM heatsink, but at least it has some sort of cooling on it. And then by far the coolest feature that some of you have probably already spotted. Yeah, that's an antenna jack. This thing has built-in Wi-Fi for like the 2005 Pentium 4 system. What? That's super cool. I didn't know motherboards even really started doing this yet. I guess I just always figured out, oh, it was probably more like, to like once like Vista and stuff was coming out that, for a desktop motherboard like this. Obviously OEM stuff probably had this more before then, but for an enthusiast board, I guess it makes sense. It's just, yeah, I think most people just figured, if I want Wi-Fi on my desktop, I just gotta get an expansion card for that. But yeah, wow, that is super cool. Before we talk about the CPU, the RAM that's in here really quick, I actually have no information on. They have P and Y labeled chips, and there's 4 of them here, and they're each 1 gigabyte DDR2, so 4 gigabytes total, so that's pretty nice. This is just how it came. I've tried looking this up, and it gives me conflicting information. Some of the Google results say that it's 533 megahertz, and some of it says it's 667. I don't see how you could have both for the same model number, but okay. If it's 533, I'm probably going to swap it out for some 667. But if this is 667, then I'll just leave it. That's fast enough for a Pentium. That's fast enough for a Pentium 4 like this. I do not need to waste like 800 megahertz DDR2 on this thing. And there's no way that 1066 is probably even possible on this thing. Now this already has a Pentium 4 in here. I actually forget which one it is. It doesn't say. It's you probably can't read it very well. At least I'm struggling to. Pentium 4, 3.2 gigahertz, 1 meg of cache, 800 megahertz. That'd be fine. Honestly, the lights flickered a little bit. That'd be fine, but that's kind of boring. It's not super, nothing about that is super special. I want to have a special Pentium 4. I want to use this. This is a Pentium 4 670. The fastest clocked Pentium 4 Intel ever officially released. 3.8 gigahertz, 2 megabytes of cache, pretty cool chip, and honestly, one that's worth way more than it actually is worth on eBay. These things probably go for like 50, 60 bucks nowadays, which, yeah, don't ever pay that much for any Pentium 4. It is not worth it. I've had this chip for years, and I've really been wanting to use it. Now, you probably won't believe this, but this is the system that I found it in. Yeah, that's right. This thing's a laptop. This thing's an Alienware, and it has seen better days. I have no clue if this thing works, and frankly, the condition that it's in, I don't have very high hopes that it will work. Don't have the power supply for it. Someone just gave it to me for free many years ago because they found it when they were cleaning out a house. Who knows what Alienware? Someone who's more familiar with that stuff can tell me it. I think it's a little bigger than a notebook now, guys. They actually chose to put a desktop Pentium 4 in their laptop. That's just kind of stupid. I don't know where the heatsink for this went. I have it somewhere. It's a huge copper heatsink with like 4 heat pipes going over here. This thing, it's like thick too. It's like nearly half the thickness of the machine. It's probably a better heatsink than most OEM Pentium 4s ever actually had. Probably better than a lot of the Pentium D heatsinks, honestly. This laptop will probably never actually get used because I seriously doubt it actually works. We're just gonna borrow its heart for now. Super weird taking a desktop CPU out of a laptop, but yeah. Need to clean up some of the thermal paste better, but yeah, there we go. Pentium 4 670, 3.8 gigahertz. Pretty cool. I'm just gonna pop the 3.2 gigahertz P4 that was already in here, or that was in the Asus board. I'm just gonna put that in there to help protect the socket, because it's not like I'm gonna be using this 3.2 gigahertz CPU anytime soon, so it might as well protect the socket. Pop her in. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention it earlier. I actually have the I/O shield, finally, for a motherboard. I have so many loose motherboards that I just don't have these for, but this one I finally have it for. That's nice. Just makes it feel more complete, you know? I'm feeling lazy today. Yeah, I'm just gonna go solid state. This is just a 120 gig. Ooh. Yeah, this is just a cheap 120 gig ADATA SSD. I could put a regular hard drive in there. I got plenty of them, but this is just more convenient, more reliable. It's, you know, blah, blah, blah. I don't feel like pulling one out either, but DVD drive, I'll just grab some random, probably IDE or SATA one, stick it in the case. I don't feel like trying to go grab it right now. For sound, I have an original Sound Blaster Audigy that I'm just gonna stick in it. You know, this is from like 2001, so it would have been a little bit out of date by this point, but still a pretty good sound card. It'll be better than the onboard audio. Honestly, the onboard audio on that motherboard is probably okay, but I do want to have some EAX support, so, you know, original Audigy, that'll cover the basic, you know, EAX compatibility, so that'll be fine. And finally, for the graphics card, I'm gonna go with the Radeon X850 XT. I've had this for like 2 years now. In fact, I did an unboxing video of this when I first got it, because it's still like shrink wrapped and stuff. This isn't actually a brand new card. It was just like probably like a refurb or return unit that I happened to find that was still like sealed. Yeah, but I really haven't had a chance to use this card since doing that testing, so it's been a while. And I've been wanting to use it. It's only 256 megabyte. I'm pretty sure there is a 512 meg version of this, so it's not the most high-end in the world or anything like that, but it'll work. It'll be pretty good. This would have been king in like late 2004, so for 2005, this is fine. Besides, we're still going to be held back by the Pentium 4 anyways, so putting in a faster GPU really doesn't make that much sense. I just realized I haven't really thought about what power supply I'm going to use. That's kind of an issue because I don't really have a ton of power supplies that are in good condition to just plunk in here. I really want to get some more just like kind of more basic, like 500, 600 watt modern power supplies to use for stuff like this. But have you seen the prices of power supplies these days? No, that's not happening. I'm not paying 50, 60 plus bucks for power supplies for my random old computers, not unless I get rich or something. I guess I'll probably pull the 650 watt Corsair power supply out of the socket 478 Pentium 4 that I built not too long ago, because I need to do some other stuff to that computer before I really want to start using it again. Need to upgrade like the cooling on the 9800 Pro. At least for now, that system's going to be down. It's going to be replaced with another Pentium 4. Frankly, this is a better Pentium 4 in theory, so I guess this is going to be my main Pentium 4 system for the time being, but I guess for now, I'll steal the power supply out of that, put it in this. Frankly, I don't even know how long this computer is even going to be around. It'll probably be together for like 4 months, knowing me, and then I'll start scavenging parts off of it, and I'll just end up forgetting about it and never using it again. Who knows? We'll see, but at least for the time being, we're just gonna steal it from there. Oh yeah, I almost forgot about cooling. Yeah, gonna need something kind of decent to cool that Inferno, because I think it's like 130 watt TDP or something like that. Some crazy number. So I have this old Zalman copper heatsink, got 3 heat pipes and this kind of interesting curl fashion. This is only like a 92 millimeter fan. I had this on my QX6700 before, and it cooled it okay. I couldn't really overclock it very much with this, but this should be enough to cool the Pentium 4, I think, with no problems. And for case fans, I got these 2 blue LED deep cool fans. I didn't have any other really LED fans that matched, so I'm going with these. These are actually off of a Gamax 400 heat sinks that I'm just not using right now. I'm going with blue because I guess that's one of the Pentium 4 colors. It'd be really cool if I could find some like orange LED fans. There are some, but they're really uncommon. So if I wanted to have orange fans, I'd probably have to get like ARGB fans and like somehow set them to orange, probably through like some cheap little controller thing. And I'm just going to 2 fans. I don't feel like putting one on the side panel because it's basically just going to be blowing on top of the CPU heatsink. I don't think that's really going to help it very much, so I'm not even going to bother with it. Okay, wait, hold on a second. I'm an idiot. Apparently somehow I lost the rest of the bracket for the Zalman cooler. I don't know how. I haven't used it since it was on the Core 2 Extreme machine. I have this part of the bracket, but I don't actually have the metal piece that like this straps down to it. And I'm also missing the screws that mount this into the board. I don't know where they could be. Like these were together. I don't know why I would have separated the other ones. I've looked at literally every place that I could have possibly put them. I can't find them. So I don't know, maybe they'll eventually show up, but I guess the bright side is that it wouldn't be impossible to like make my own. Like making this would be much, much harder. But it's basically just a piece of metal with a circle cut out of it to basically sit on top of that and just press down, and then the screws I could always, I guess, replicate with some really thin, long bolts. That sucks, but I guess it's not the end of the world. That's just really frustrating. So my backup plan, I guess, is going to be this Arctic Freezer 7 Pro. I think this is like the original revision of it. This one's seen some better days, and it also has these pretty annoying mounting clips. I think I might be able to get these to work. Some of them are a little bent, so I don't know. If I can't get this one to work, I do have another Freezer 7 that's like much newer revision. I always thought these were interesting because they have like rubber isolation mounts on the fan. It's pretty cool. It's like 2 weeks since the rest of the video had been like filmed and whatnot, so I'm kind of going off memory here. I have to re-record this section because the original stuff we filmed was pretty disjointed and honestly kind of hard to follow along with what was going on. So here's what happened. The machine turned on perfectly fine. The RAM is 667. However, in the BIOS, the only options for RAM speed are 400, 533, and 600, which, as far as I'm aware, is not an official like DDR2 spec. So I figured, okay, maybe the old BIOS, doesn't support higher RAM speeds or whatnot. This was like, I think, the original BIOS for this board, which is from 2004 apparently, because that's when the BIOS was built. So we updated to the latest official BIOS, and it didn't add any RAM options, and on top of that, it started throwing up CPU microcode errors, which didn't go away after like clearing the CMOS and whatnot, so it didn't seem to affect anything, but I didn't really feel comfortable just leaving it like that. So we tried the latest beta BIOS, and that got rid of the microcode errors. Still no faster RAM options, so I guess that's just a limitation of the board. I forgot to check in like CPU-Z to see if the RAM is actually only running at 600 megahertz, or if that's just displaying it weird. I don't know, I probably should have. And we decided to go with Windows 2000 because I already have so many machines with XP that I needed something with 2000, just because I don't get enough opportunities to mess around with it. The 2000 install went perfectly fine, just installed basically the latest drivers that are available for all the hardware. As for the performance, well, it's a Pentium 4, and stuff like Half-Life 2 and Far Cry, it still doesn't hit the like perfect 60 FPS that you'd kind of hope it can. It still drops quite a bit below 60, and you get some like stuttering in Half-Life 2 and stuff like that, so it's not really that much different than other Pentium 4 machines I've messed around with before. So a little disappointing, but I guess it's not that unexpected. Went ahead and ran 3D Mark. I have the scores for 01 and 05. I couldn't get 03 to work, and this is actually a problem with both 03 and 05, is that the Future Mark System Info utility just refused to work. I don't know why. It was just a thing that just didn't work. There's a launch option you can use that's supposed to disable it, and that only worked on 05. It still didn't disable it on 03. So I only have the 2 scores for that. I think these scores are okay for a Pentium 4. I think the 01 score I would expect a little higher, maybe 1,000 or 2 points higher than this, but I'm just going off memory with that, so it might be pretty average. So yeah, the performance is nothing really that special. The GPU is definitely being held back, and I really don't have much else to say about it. I didn't test that many other games, but yeah, I looked at the little bit of performance that we got, and I was just like, yeah, this is exactly what I expected out of a Pentium 4. Gotta wait for the GPU to kick down. There we go. I really hope that the wind noise is not blowing directly into the camera. Actually, blowing directly into my mic. I'm gonna put that over there, I guess. So what have we learned? Well, it's a Pentium 4. Yeah, it's really not different from any of the other Pentium 4s I've ever used. You know, it doesn't seem that loud until you sit directly behind the exhaust. I was kind of hoping that the fastest Pentium 4, well, highest clocked, I know the Extreme Editions are technically faster, but I figured the highest clocked one, maybe there's a chance that it'll be, you know, a little bit better, but not really. I was kind of hoping that it would be able to play like Far Cry and Half-Life 2, you know, above 60 FPS basically all the time, but that still really not the case. I didn't really do a whole lot of extra testing, mostly because my capture card, for whatever reason, my AVIO HD, it does really good with these old resolutions. Like, it can capture DOS stuff great, you know, 1024 by 768, 1280 by 1024. It does all of that beautifully, except that it just drops the frame rate to like half randomly at times for like 20 plus seconds, and it makes the footage look way worse than it actually should. I'm turning this thing off. This thing is annoying. There we go. After doing like the footage recording, I did play around with it more just on my own time, just hooked up to a CRT, and it doesn't feel anywhere near as bad as the footage makes it look, especially if you turn off fraps. You don't have that constant number reminder like, oh look, your FPS, it sucks, it's only like 50 something, you know. It actually felt fine for the most part. My biggest problem, especially with like Half-Life 2, is the stuttering. It'll stutter quite a bit. It seems to be when you're kind of loading into not a new area, but like a little section of the map you haven't really been to before. It's hard to explain. You'd think Far Cry would suffer more from the stuttering, but I don't think it actually does really. Which is weird, because Far Cry is the open world game, and Half-Life 2 is broken down into levels. I don't get it, but it is what it is, I guess. So maybe I'll keep this machine around a little bit longer than I was planning, just to mess around with it some more. Maybe I can find some unique stuff to do with it. I definitely don't regret building it. I think it was a fun experience. I like the way it looks. It looks really nice. You know, it's given me an opportunity to mess around with my X850 XT. And Windows 2000 runs great on it. You know, I don't have any issues with that. Of course, I don't really have anything to compare this against other than like my experience with like a Core 2 Duo, which is not really the most fair. I really need to get my hands on an Athlon 64 system to compare against, to whether it be, you know, Northwood Pentium 4 or Prescott Pentium 4. I don't know which one. Depends on what Athlon 64, you know, platform I'm able to find. I do have AM2 stuff for Athlon 64, but you know, that's all like 2006. So that was competing with the Core 2 Duo anyways. So it's not the most fair to compare it against, you know, a Pentium 4. You know, going off of the benchmarks and stuff from back in the day, it seems like the Athlon 64 is like only like a little better in a lot of scenarios. The problem with a lot of those benchmarks is that none of them actually show important stuff like 1% and 0.1% lows. It's just all like average frame rates, which is not that useful. It's kind of useful, but it's not that useful. So maybe if I ever get my hands on that, I'll try to do some more, I guess, modern testing, you could say, and see if I can try to figure out a way to do 1% and 0.1% lows. I know there's a way you can do it with Fraps. You can get like the raw frame data out of Fraps or something like that, and then you can plug it in and do some math or whatever to figure out the 1%, 0.1% lows, that kind of thing. So maybe I'll end up doing that, or even just building an Athlon 64 and seeing like, oh, does it just feel better? I don't know. Because, you know, basically everyone always says like, oh, the Athlon 64, it was so good, so much better than this. And the numbers, at least in the benchmarks, don't necessarily seem to indicate that to me. That could just be me looking at the wrong benchmarks or whatever, the wrong reviews from back in the day. I don't know, but you know, I definitely want to try an Athlon 64. I'm not at all doubting that it's necessarily a lot better than something like this would be. I'm just holding out. I'm being a little skeptical if it was actually that good, that it was so much better. You know, can it actually play like Half-Life 2 above 60 FPS like almost all the time? Or is it like only just like, yeah, it's a little better than the average, but it's like not actually that good. But enough talking about Athlon 64. This machine itself, it's good, it's fine. I don't really have anything else to say about it per se. Maybe I could do like a live stream or something. We play some games on this or something, try out different stuff on it, if you guys would be interested in that, because I don't really know what else to make content with this thing for. And I don't want it to just feel like I built it for just this specific video and then I never really use it for anything again. Like I said, I'm probably not keeping this machine together for very long. If this thing lasts a year with me, I'd be surprised. I'm not getting rid of any of the hardware, it's just stuff's probably gonna get plucked out of it, especially this power supply, because power supplies are expensive and I need all the best ones that I can for any projects I come across. I guess that's it for this video. Maybe I'll put up a poll for the live stream thing. I can figure out how to set that up. It's probably gonna be a little bit of a nightmare, especially with the capture card thing. I don't know. We'll have to see if the footage looks too bad through the capture card, but I don't know. We'll just mess around, maybe see. You know, I wanted to do some live streams every once in a while. It wouldn't be a regular thing, but you know, every once in a while I think it'd be fine. So it'd be a neat thing to try out. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video and I'll see you guys in the next one.